Hello and good evening, my lovelies. You've got what you wanted, or what you're here for, because you're certainly not here for me. You're here for my reflections on Ren, and that's fine, because he's a lovely boy. And tonight, I will be reflecting on his tales of Jenny, Screech, and Violet. What more can I say? If you know them, you know them. If you don't, I hope I do them justice. Thank you. So yes, here we have Ren and his tales of Jenny and Screech. Tragic, but wonderful. How do you marry those two ideas? But anyway, I'm going to start with the backstory of how I discovered Ren. It was only a couple of months ago. My sister sent me a message via WhatsApp. We'd not been in touch because we're really crap at keeping in touch. Even when we live in the same country, we're crap at keeping in touch. And I'd not heard from her in months. And I just got a link to the tale of Jenny and Screech. And it just said, I know it's not like any music we normally listen to, but I think this boy is so bloody talented. He's only 2 years younger than my sister, and a year older than my brother. So the fact that she calls him a boy is just quite hilarious. But, where are we? Just thought you might find him interesting. It's surprising to see this kind of talent these days. But that was it. I just got this message, and I didn't hear from her for a while afterwards, because she decided to do a dopamine detox and stay off social media. So I discovered Ren in isolation and had no one to talk to about it, because my husband and I do not share musical taste, and music doesn't affect him in the same way as it does me. He has certain songs that touch him to his core, but otherwise he likes music for a beat or ironic lyrics. So technically he should really love Ren. So yeah, I just got dumped in the deep end, and when I told someone else that this was my introduction to Ren, they likened it to having your first swimming lesson as being thrown off a cruise ship. And emotionally, he's probably right. But I'm not going to stop and start like some reactors do, because A, I feel like it loses something when you stop and start, especially when you rewind and go over things. So I will probably not stop and talk about things unless it's between tales. Although if something comes up, I will reference it, because I don't have a notebook with me and I will forget by the end of the tale. I'm just like that. So, get started.
quiet dark night in an empty street somewhere in London City. Jenny walked alone, she was dragging her feet. She was heading back home to sleep. Well, she knew this town, she knew this floor, because she walked it about 1,000 times before she wanted to escape. Can you blame? Well, on the very same night, in a different place, there walked this hooded young youth by the name of James. He was 14 years old and out of his brain. He'd been smoking ganja with the boys. James, he grew up to be a kid of the street. His mates called him Screech. He was quick on his feet. He was a liar, a thief. At 14 years old, the devil had set his sights on his soul. As Jenny walked home all alone, she felt scared. Usually she was alright, but it was like there was something in the air. A divine intervention telling her to beware. Maybe intuition bugging her and making her so scared. Sirens sound in the distance at the beat of Jenny's feet. A symphony of the night that echoes crime on London streets. Jenny turns a corner, their eyes they meet. Up all go Jenny, a boy named Screech. Give me all your money, bitch, give it to me. If you cooperate, then you'll soon be free. I want your purse, your phone, don't fucking look at me. I mean it, bitch, are you listening to me? Jenny freezes statue like a lady shakes stalactite. Feel like liquid nitrogen in the dark night. She tried to find strength to move, but stayed as still as a statue in high-heeled shoes. What the hell you playing at? You playing games with me? I swear to fucking God, I'll slice the rosy off your cheeks. You think I don't mean it, girl? You don't know me. The last thing you see will be a boy code. Screech reached with the sheath of the blade, with the teeth that could bite through steel and slice concrete, and he swung possessed with the devil in his chest, and the statue she was turned to butter in her breath. It was a quiet dark night in an empty street somewhere in London City. Jenny lay still on the cold concrete. She's found somewhere to sleep. Well, she knew this town, she knew this floor, 'cause she'd walked it about 1,000 times before. I guess that she escaped. It's such a shame.
Okay, turn my sound back on. The introduction. I know it's a Christmas carol to start with. And until you've actually seen it, you just get the idea that it feels like something you might hear in like a Spanish tavern. Cantata style. And there is a certain kind of dissonance between the musical styles. And you can tell that it's going to be a story. Because that's what those old style, like classical Spanish tunes, works the same in Greek as well. I live in Cyprus, so we have Greek cantatas as well. And the switch into the almost reggae / ska type beat that's rapped, it's a bizarre marrying of genres, but it works. I don't know why it works, but it does. Really shouldn't. And something I have noticed, a lot of people don't seem to grasp the whole idea that she might be a teenage prostitute. Now, a streetwalker was a common euphemism when I was growing up. So it kind of stuck, and it was something that I was easy to get. And the way he says, I'll slice the rosy off your cheeks. Having rosy cheeks was a sign of being a painted lady. It's very old style descriptors. And the way he switches between characters, it reminds me very much of like poetry and minstrels. I'm not talking about the chocolate, but you only get that if you're British anyway. Just let me... I want to find the response I sent to my sister, because obviously that was my reaction at the time. So I can't really get much more authentic than that. What is it? It's like a strange and unusual love child of a Mexican cantina, the streets, Lily Allen and bardic chronicling. It's on a level with Chaucer. It's quite literally the tales. And part of me is actually... I don't feel glad. But I think given Jenny's situation, I almost think that it's something she might have wanted. And I'm not saying that I think she was suicidal, but it might have been the ideal escape. Because she wouldn't have to deal with the trauma of everything that has happened in the run-up to cause this situation for her. Because any way you slice it, it's child abuse. Brutal, despicable child abuse. And yeah, it cuts me quite to the core. But one thing I love about Ren, people who are into rap and are huge fans of it, they go on about bars and everything like this. But to me, it's poetry. It's not music, it's poetry. It's using words to paint a picture and invoke emotion and what people call bars and lyrics, and the way he uses his quite beautifully silken tongue. To me, it's alliteration, and I love alliteration. I think it's one of the most evocative, and it's something in words and speech that always grabs my attention. So I love him, but just that word use, the alliteration, and to be quite honest, I'm constantly amazed by how he managed to wrap his tongue around it all. But then again, I struggle to wrap my tongue around just general conversation. So that's a skill that I am completely envious of. So now I'm going to continue on to Screech. I'm not going to talk a lot.
Patrick, man. Let me in, please open the door. I think I fucked up Patrick, really fucked up, man. I'm not sure. I got crazy, left this lady lying still on the floor. I think I killed her, Patrick. Come on, man, I can't knock no more. But Screech kept on knocking till his knuckles became sore. But there's no sign of Patrick down at number 54. No refuge for our villain, for the bitter hands of fate, with something far more sinister in mind that does away. Hey babe, you in? Now, nothing really, I'm just a bit tired, listen. Can I swing around yours for a few moments? I just really miss you, babe. What the fuck do you mean you're busy? You fucking bitch! For fuck's sakes! Siren sounds approaching like a banshee in the night. The shrill cry of justice cutting like the sharpest knife. But Screech was never one to run, not one to miss a fight. One hand upon his blade, he turned to face the blue lights. Come on then, you fucking cunts, let's fucking have you then. I am Screech, I'm the boss, I'm the ender of men. You think that uniform you're wearing means that you own these streets? These are my fucking streets, and they call me fucking Screech. Richard was an officer who stood at 6'3", working London on the night shift. What he didn't think he'd see was a boy running at him like an animal possessed. With no time to hesitate, he fired 4 bullets at Screech's chest. Our story, it ends right at the start. Young Screech and poor Jenny lying 1 street apart. An officer shaken by the boy that he claimed. 2 bodies lay lifeless, and it's such a shame. It's such a shame.
The beginning of that, where he's sitting on the stairs and he plays the introduction to Screech. Give me a second. The initial music is beautiful, but then when he ups the tempo, that will always stick with me. If you think of any of the composers that have written music for major feature films, if I say Hans Zimmer, or maybe give you a couple of iconic films like Star Wars or Indiana Jones, you know who did those, don't you? That music, it is so indicative of something to come. You know that something is about to happen. It fills you with anticipation and dread and adrenaline, just so that you can see what's happening next. And despite this whole, the devil had set his sights on Screech's soul, he's 14. He's a boy. Whatever has gone into forming him, he's still a boy. He's only 6 years older than my son. Now, completely setting aside the fact that I don't think there is anything in my son's life that might actually cause him to grow up like that. I really don't. We don't know what went into Screech's makeup to make him this kind of complete ass. And despite the way he acts at the end, with the foul language and the anti-authoritarian rant and all that, you already know that it's all complete bravado. It's not real. He's already been panicking. And I think that, to a certain extent, that is what upsets me most about Screech's tale. He is just an adolescent boy. He's not had any opportunity to actually become a person yet. He's still an idiot with absolutely no chance for redemption, and at the same time, I also feel for the police officer. He really didn't have a choice. This boy that is running at him, completely psychotic and ready to carry out whatever he has to try and get away. He doesn't have an option. Sorry about that, I had to shout at the cat. But yeah, Richard the officer, yeah, he's a big lad, but there's no guarantee he'd be able to get away from a big ass blade. All he needed was a lucky shot in the right place and he would have died as well. So I do not begrudge the armed police officer. I know people that have worked in armed police. It is soul destroying when that has to happen. And while it's not as common in the UK as it might be in somewhere like the US, there is a reason that police officers who are armed have mandated psychological support afterwards. They might not want it, but they have to have it. And one of my main connections with this story is I know these are real people. And I don't mean that in the sense that I know where the inspiration came from. But I know this has happened. Not in London, where the original one occurred that inspired the telling of the story. A couple of years ago, I went back to the UK for a wedding. And it was the first time I'd been back since my son was a baby. And I was so excited. I wanted to take him to the park where I used to go, where I played in the playground and fed the ducks and the squirrels, and where I practiced putting a tent up before my first festival and all of those things. And it was going to be the middle of summer. Pleasant, but not as hot as here. And I was so looking forward to that. But a couple of weeks before we went back, I saw the news. And a 13-year-old boy had stabbed a 14-year-old girl in the park. No, don't get me wrong. I still took my son. In the middle of the day, in the bright sunshine, where we fed squirrels under the trees, and he played. But there was always that darkness. and I couldn't shake it. I knew it was there, and I knew that something fundamental had changed from when I was a child. In that teenage violence has increased significantly. And there's something very visceral and personal about stabbing. It's somewhat cruel, and it says a lot about the person that's armed. From certain perspectives, gun crime in America is perhaps somewhat not forgivable, but more understandable, because at least you're at a distance. It is not up close and personal, and you have every opportunity to look into that person's eyes as you attempt to harm, kill, maim them. I think something about that is so much more evil. Yeah, really upsetting. So yes, I know these people exist. It's not just the ones that you hear about on the news, and you know it's there, and it's sitting there festering. And if we don't talk about it, it just continues to happen. It just doesn't make it any easier to talk about. So now we'll go on to Violet. Poor girl. I know I said I wasn't going to interrupt, but this first little bit, I was listening to a reaction, what's her name? I think she's going by Nicoletta Official now, but it was Nicole Maria Sings. And it wasn't just me, because she actually said in hers, it sounds like bazooka music. It sounds like what you would hear in a taverna before you hear like the songs that they sing that tell stories. And it's very old style music, and I love it. Obviously it doesn't stay that way, but it's the way that he actually lulls you and draws you into the potential and the I am going to tell you a story. Come closer. Come on. And I love that about him. It might be that he's going to tell you a horrific story, but he is there and he is drawing you in with his introductions, because you know it's going to be an absolute masterpiece of a story that he's telling you. And this little bit here, you know it's going to be horrific. Even though the music switch doesn't give you that indication. This bit, this little introduction, it tells you everything you need to know about the song that's coming up. You know it's going to be a story. You know it's going to have dark elements. And oh, yeah. I'm just going to keep going. This is where the camera's going to take me off the
Ooh.
this bit. Sorry. This is my favourite of the three. But this bit, not only can you tell it's going to be a story and that it's going to have dark and twisted moments and it's not going to be a happy ending. This bit here, where he uses his voice rather than the guitar so much. I don't know if anyone else feels like this, but the way he's doing it and the way he's using his voice, and it tells me it's a lament. It's a sad story. It's a story. It has dark and twisted bits, and it's going to be sad. And I don't know if anyone else got that. But I knew before the story even started that it had got those elements to it. So I desperately wanted to know what happened next, and he's a spectacularly beautiful human being with immense talent. I can't go any further than that, but it's one of the things I love about his music.
London City, far from pretty, 2005. A lady down in Paddington is fighting just to stay alive. Rhythmic beats and bloodstained sheets, Our Lady weeps, she's tired and frail. To set the scene, we must rewind the hands of time for Violet's tale.
See, if you just got that music, would you ever have any indication of what was coming next? It's positively cheerful. He just likes to play with your emotions, doesn't he?
Violet was a silent girl, grew up with violent starts. Her mother was a drinker and her father was a bastard. Every night he took a tie but never left the room. I'll spare you with the things he did, I'm sure her mother knew. Violet was a silent girl, she moved out at 16. A semi-detached council flat, paid for by a welfare scheme. Packing shelves at Tesco, stacking jars like pickled bricks. She met a boy named Stevie and he was a little prick. Violet was a silent girl and Violet, she fell fast. See, Stevie was a wrong un, but he sure knew how to charm her. Every night he took a tie but never left the room. History repeats itself, he'd paint her black and blue and dark. She never stood a chance. The devil comes to dance. Violet, why are you always so quiet? On her bedroom door and he's irate. He's been drinking and smoking, he's up late. And he stands by her bedside, she shakes, but her eyes stay shut. You fucking slut, I know you're up. And he pinches her eyelids and folds them up. Violet, why are you lying to me, Violet? She stays silent, things turn violent. That's the sound of his fists when they fall like a crashing pilot. Hit like hailstones, one to the collarbone, full force, full blown, blood's black bone, crack, knick, knack, paddywhack, one to the jaw and the tooth spat, detach, fist connects and disconnects a bone. A quick deflect to misdirect the blow, but nonetheless his punches met her throat. Such a mess, he's left her bruised and broke. Violet, why you always so silent, Violet? Why you such a little liar, Violet? Do you think I wanna do this, Violet? In character, she stays silent. Well, say something, Violet. Silence. Fucking say something, Violet. Silence. Wait. Say something, Violet. Not one word. She stays quiet. London City, far from pretty, 2005. A lady down in Paddington is fighting just to stay alive. The doctor, in a state of shock, saw something here so very wrong. See, Violet, she was pregnant. Poor Violet, she was 9 months gone. Turning to the doctor, Violet broke her silence and she cried, if I'm to die right here tonight, please let my baby stay alive. The doctor soon regained composure, called the surgeon to come in. As Violet's world turned to black, the curtains closed, the lights went dim. In London City, far from pretty, 2005. A lady down in Paddington just lost the fight to stay alive. A tragedy or a miracle, it happened on these very streets. Two twins are lying side by side. A girl named Jenny and a boy named Screech.
Yeah. Perhaps the only miracle is that none of them survived to continue the generational trauma and cyclic effects of violence. And you know what? I get the idea, excuse me, that the reason Jenny and Screech were brought up separately and didn't know each other was because they were probably in foster care, and because Stevie was a little prick, refused to give up parental rights. Nothing can make him do it, even if he's in prison for murder or manslaughter, as it might be. But there was nothing that he could do for those children. You know, after killing their mother, there's not a lot of people that would let them go back to him. But if he doesn't sign away parental rights, they can't be adopted. And even, let me think, 2005 they were born, and they were 14. Now, even in 2005, we're not talking a long time ago now, there would have been every possibility or every effort made to have them put together or adopted together because of them being siblings and twins. Now, the other possibility is if either of them needed severe medical care or suffered injury from Violet's beating. So, yes, it's a lot of story that's missing, but it's the entire thing becomes archetypal. You don't have all of the nuance of individual stories, but you know these people exist. You know that Violet exists. You know that Stevie exists. You know Violet's father exists and her mother. is her mother a drinker because of what the father does, or is the father able to get away with what he does because she's a drinker? You don't know. But these archetypes, these neglectful mothers, abusive fathers, insular and introverted Violet and Jenny. It's like I said, you don't know what went into Screech's upbringing. You don't know what went into Jenny's upbringing that made her what she was, or who she was. But one of the things I do love a lot is the way Ren switches from being storyteller and narrator to being the antagonist in that little bit, shall we say, where he knocks on Violet's bedroom door. It is positively Shakespearean, and it's already been said many times before, but I can actually see that on a stage with someone being the antagonist and doing something awful to another cast member, with the narrator at the front of the stage telling you everything that's going on. But the fact that Ren switches between those roles himself, and he does it so cleanly, switching from character to character, and it's not just... Go away, Mog. It's not just in Violet, he embodies... What's her name? Sorry, I was going to get her name wrong. I was going to call her Violet. He embodies Jenny. He shows you her fear and things, and the fact that she's scared without knowing why. You see the slight hunch to her shoulders and the looking round because, and you can also see the confusion because usually she was all right, but there was something in the air. And you see the... I'm trying to think of the word for Screech. Other than mini prick. Instead of mini me, it's mini prick. But the fact is, you know that neither of them had the influence of the parents, so you've got to wonder somewhere along the line about the whole nature versus nurture thing, and there's got to be bits of both, hasn't there? Jenny embodies elements of her mother, Screech embodies all the worst parts of Daddy. Joy. It's just... I find it very difficult to watch and listen to that one, because it brings up so many things that you know exist, and to be quite frank, we try to ignore it. One of my favourite parts of Violet, and it's chilling and tragic, and many people have already said before, the way Ren uses the acoustic effects of his environment. So in the alleyways, excuse me, in the alleyways he uses the acoustic nature of those, like the walls and the enclosed spaces, and then the broader spaces for when he's talking about Screech and Jenny and what was it? When he basically like cries into the night, "Dear Screech, dear boy, where did he go?" That is a cry, and it almost echoes in the large space. But then in the hospital, you can hear the way his voice reverberates on the walls. But then when he goes into the hallway, the sound quality changes. And then everyone notices it, and I just find it chilling, because the bit where he walks up the stairs and into the bottom of the stairwell and basically said she never stood a chance, and sings it up into the stairwell. To me, that feels like Violet is like searching up into the heavens for some kind of divine intervention to get her out of this situation. But all she sees is blackness and darkness. So of course she never stood a chance. And after she's looked up into the heavens, and you come back down again, and the devil comes to dance, and he's right outside a bedroom door. Yeah, that one takes a lot out of me emotionally, and I did really well not to cry. It was a close run thing at one point, but I did well. I almost gave myself hiccups at the same time. It's not good. But that is my reflections on Jenny, Screech and Violet. All you can really say is it is a positive message because it is being talked about. And I don't just mean that it's there in the news. People are talking about it on a social level. People are talking about what goes into creating the environments where these situations can perpetuate. And that has only got to be a good thing, because the more we talk about it, the more we can fix it. And I'm not saying we can fix everything, but that is something that we can do. Just by making sure we're all talking about it and thinking of ways to actually combat these cyclic, repeating patterns of violent behaviour, and even the creation of a victim profile. The fact is, Violet was a victim. Her mother was probably a victim. If you think about it, if Violet's mother was a drinker, she was probably a drinker to either mitigate the situation that she was in or a previous one. So Violet's mother was probably abused at some point. So Violet became abused, her daughter became abused, and whether you believe in nurture versus nature and all that, and the whole psychological development thing, there is something that gets passed on. Personality traits that are wired into our psyches from somewhere. Because it keeps going. And I love the fact that we're all talking about it now, because it can only be for the better. Thank you. Bye. I'll try and end on a happier note next time.